Welcome to Assembly Calendar. I'm Mike Friesen. With us for our program today, Assemblyman Dean Murray. Dean Murray represents the 3rd Assembly District in New York State. The 3rd District is part of the eastern end of Long Island, and we want to thank you folks all across Long Island for joining us for our program together. And Dean Murray, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Yeah, good to be back, Mike.
It's, the time of year when people here ask in Albany, well, you got the budget done.
Right.
You're all set, right? You can go home now and enjoy the summer.
Right. Now's when it gets even more hectic.
It really kind of does, because now there's a lot of focus as to what is left for the legislature to do. There's a limited window now between when the budget work is completed and that's all done, and then the end of the scheduled session here. So you've got basically about a month's worth to go as we sit here and tape this program. And depending upon who you talk to, there's a fair amount of things left to be done, things that are important for the people of New York State.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the governor started his little tour now across the state and pushing his top 3 agenda, and that would be, the tax cap, of course, and then also ethics reform and same-sex marriage. So those are 3 of the top issues, that we'll be facing, and folks are kind of expecting that to be taken up before we get out of session.
The governor was a pretty strong leader when it came to the budget debate and the budget discussion, getting that done on time and getting a formed budget in the shape that he thought was important. Do you think he'll have the same kind of success on those 3 agenda items that you just laid out for us there?
I think he's taking it to the people. He's going across the state, and he is pushing, the issues. If nothing else, I'm just hopeful that we can get them to the floor and get them resolved either one way or the other. Now, as far as the tax cap goes, I mean, that is, over 70% of New Yorkers want a tax cap. And as I said before, the tax cap is nothing but a scream for relief from the taxpayers. The fact of the matter is we're overburdened with taxes, and they need some relief. They need some help. So they're turning to us saying, let's cap the spending, get things under control. So it is up to us to get that done.
The people on Long Island know all about property taxes and how high they are. In fact, a group of Long Islanders took the time to come up to Albany yesterday. Here you've got the governor and the lieutenant governor going around the state, traveling places like Long Island, every major part of the state. But here you had a group of Long Islanders take the time out of their workday and all to make the trip up to Albany, not an inconsequential feat, just to make sure their voice was heard. Let's talk a little bit about that trip and that day in Albany just about a week or so ago here. You spoke to that group, and there were conflicting point of views. We'll show a little bit of that, but you'll hear some opposition to the idea of a tax cap here in Albany as well.
Oh, absolutely. Basically it was this. On the one side, you have the residents, the taxpayers, and unfortunately, it's been a situation where we're pitting opposite sides against each other. On the other side was the teachers union, and they were lining the hallways and saying, we don't want a tax cap because that'll limit the spending, and on top of that, screaming out, tax the rich, Unfortunately, again, I don't think they got the memo. We're overtaxed, everyone, rich, poor, male, female, it doesn't matter. We're overtaxed in New York. The last thing we need is another tax.
There's a lot of people that make the point that New York State has an awful lot of money coming in, an awful lot of revenue, money to spend. It just seems to always want to have this appetite to spend just a little bit more than what it has already.
Absolutely, and this is why we need the fiscal constraint right now, and we need a tax cap in place to say, that's it. Stop. Let's deal with what we have, use what we have, make it work, be efficient, and stop going to the well again and again and again, because we are chasing people out of New York.
Let's look at the remarks that you made to that group. You'll hear some of that opposition from the folks who were lining the walls, as it were, of the room here at the Capitol buildings where that event took place. And we'll be back to talk more on today's Assembly Calendar with Dean Murray.
I want to thank everyone for coming out today. And for those that are saying no tax cap, let me explain what this tax cap means. The tax cap is for relief. In case you didn't get the memo, we're overtaxed. It's that simple. We simply cannot afford this anymore. People yelling out, people asking for tax relief and a tax cap. Asking for tax relief is not aimed at hurting anyone. That's great. Then we'll see who's left. As I was saying, what a tax cap is it is a scream from the public for help. More than 70% of the public, of New Yorkers, say they want a tax cap. Do you know why? The latest reports have come out saying that of the highest tax people in the nation, New York dominates that list. Dominates the list. Thank you. Thank you for bringing up that joke. I say that, and listen closely, I say that because this is typical Albany, where you pit one thing against another. A few years ago, there was the big argument. On this side, you had tax cap. On this side, you had circuit breaker. And you know what happened? We got neither. And you know why? Because it was an excuse. Nothing but an excuse. Well, New Yorkers are tired of excuses. It is time for action. It is time to force change, and by passing a tax cap, we will force that change. You know, not for nothing, if I were your teacher, you'd be in timeout right now. Like we're saying, this tax cap will force change. We need change. That is why I am supporting the tax cap, and hopefully we will make that change happen. Thank you very much.
That must not be a very easy experience, for one. You know, there was one point, and I don't think we really heard what the comment was from the peanut gallery, but
Right.
You said, thanks for referencing that joke or something like that. Well,
They had held up a giant banner about the circuit breaker. And the reason I called it a joke was because, as I explained a couple of years ago, they used that as the argument. Half of the side said we want a tax cap. The other half said circuit breaker. So they argued about that, ensuring the fact that the public got neither. And that's the typical Albany game. It's to play one against the other, and in the end, nothing happens. And then it disappeared from the conversation for a year or two. And then election year rolls around again, and lo and behold, it's back. Well, as I said there, the people are tired of the talking and the game playing and all of this. It's time to get it done. And we need to get a tax cap passed now.
one of the things we are hearing, though, sort of similar to that scenario from last year that you talked about, tax cap, circuit breaker.
Mm-hmm.
What we're hearing this year is, well, if you're going to have a tax cap, you have to have mandate relief.
Right.
But you know, you really can't do the mandate relief without the tax cap. And I'm starting to get concerned that maybe we're getting into that same area. Well, which one's got to come first? Maybe we can't figure it out. We don't know. It's too hard.
Right,
We can't do it.
Exactly. You know what? If you sit and you wait for the perfect scenario, nothing happens. So what we need to do this year is learn from the past mistakes. We do need mandate relief with the tax cap, because a tax cap without some real mandate relief could spell trouble down the road. But pass the tax cap first, because once you do, it forces us to tackle the issue of mandate relief. Now, I have a bill in myself that calls for mandate relief. We call for a 3-year moratorium on all unfunded mandates. It also turns to the governor, because the governor is the one that put together the mandate relief team. It calls on that team to do its job, identify the mandates that we can get rid of now, and get rid of them. If we can pass that along with the tax cap, but we can't have one contingent on the other, because then neither one will happen. Guaranteed.
Give us some examples. I think maybe some of the people watching may not understand what mandate relief is, or what the mandates are that you're talking about. I guess by definition, they are expenses on local governments or school districts from Albany. Albany says, well, you've got to have this program, or you've got to purchase this sort of thing and make it available. So do it, but Albany doesn't give any of the monies to make that happen.
And you know what? The daddy of all mandate reliefs on Long Island, or mandates on Long Island, would be the MTA payroll tax, where we turned around and imposed this tax on Long Islanders, on local governments, school districts, not-for-profits, every business. We imposed this on everyone there to bail out the MTA. That's a mandate. That's where we turned to them and said, we're going to just dig into your pocket, or we're going to force this upon the local governments or school districts. people were going out this week voting on their school district budgets, and they see tax increases. Well, part of that increase is because of the MTA payroll tax. And while they claimed that the schools would be reimbursed, they're not being reimbursed at 100%. Because if they were, then why would you take it in the first place? It's a shell game. It's typical Albany. We need to stop that. That's like I said, the granddaddy of all mandates on Long Island would be the MTA payroll tax. But there's other little ones, like in the school districts, 2 years ago I think it was, when they said that every school district, every child has to have a calculator. Not just a calculator, one of the real technical ones that costs like $100, $120. I mean, that was hundreds of thousands of dollars imposed on every single school district. Just go do it. We have to stop doing that. If we're not coming with the money, stop with the mandates.
And that's where it is right now. It's going to be amazing to see if this governor has the ability to get this done. He was pretty good when it came to get some of those budgetary issues.
I am going to say I'm a little disappointed in the governor right now in the fact that while he's kind of led the way with the budget issue and and appears to be leading the way with the tax cap issue, when it comes to mandate relief, I don't see him leading the way. I see that he set aside this, put together this mandate relief team and said, okay, they're going to do it. They really haven't. They really haven't done anything substantial as far as mandate relief. And he needs to be out there helping us as we're out spreading the word of some of the mandates that need to be eliminated. So we're kind of counting on him, to step it up a little here and really talk about mandate relief. One of the things I haven't heard him really talk about is that MTA payroll tax. I'd like to see him in our corner pushing to get rid of that.
It's an interesting group of 3 items that he's pushing as he travels around the state: the tax cap, the ethics reform, and then the same-sex marriage bill. The 3 don't really seem to mesh too well.
Well, as Meatloaf said in his old song, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I'll definitely support the tax cap. I definitely support the ethics reform. We've got to get the public's confidence back in government. So we do need some ethics reform. We do need to open it up and be more open to the taxpayers, to the voters.
You mean the amount of time you've been here at the state capitol? You've seen a fair number of your colleagues already charged, indicted, convicted, sent to jail.
Yeah. Listen, the public just wants to know that they can trust their lawmakers, and I don't see any problem with opening up. I'm a business owner. Ironically, though, I'm in advertising, and we publish certain magazines. So if you want to see my client list, just pick up the magazine so you know who I'm doing business with. But, there are, attorneys and things of this nature where it is important to know, who they are dealing with, who is paying their bills on the outside, so that we can, just make sure that everything's fine and dandy.
Yeah, there are many lawyers in the state legislature, and it is understood that there is a need for confidentiality when it comes to client-lawyer relationships. But it seems to breed an awful lot of question as to how decisions are made especially by the legislative leaders in both the Assembly and the Senate who are lawyers. Right.
Yeah, I really don't see anything wrong, and I don't see where there would be a conflict with just saying, this is my client. Releasing the client list. You're not releasing any documents as far as what the cases are about or anything, but I think the public needs to or has the right to know who you're doing business with.
If you folks watching this program want to reach out to your representative, easy thing for you to do. You can contact Dean Murray at his office in Medford. The phone number is 207-0073, or send an email to the address you see right there on the bottom of the screen. That is murray.d@assembly.state.ny.us. And you can get a hold of your representative, let him know how you feel about things, or if you've got any issues you think he and his staff could help you out with. That's how you make that contact right there. Dean Murray, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Mike.
Always a pleasure. We want to thank you folks, too, for spending your time with us, and we will hope to see you soon for our next edition of Assembly Calendar.